When the only constant in life is change, you need to be ready. This is the Man-Made Survival Show.
Hello everyone, my name is Jose Pro, I'm Man-Made Survival. Thanks so much for coming back to the channel and watching this video. So what I want to talk about today is the Constitution of the United States and how important it is for us as the people of the United States to protect it against everyone who wants to trample upon it, who wants to cancel it, who wants to get rid of it, whatever they want to do. We must defend it. All right, and what I want to talk particularly about today is the Second Amendment. All right, this is what the Second Amendment says. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. All right, so I want you to keep that in mind. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, because it's very important. So the first video I want to show you talks about that, and Ben Shapiro said it best. Here it is.
Never is about left or right, this issue. Why is it here?
Well, you know, we can talk about Britain in a second. I think the reason that it's about left and right here is because fundamentally the right believes that the basis for the Second Amendment, and they believe in the Second Amendment, the basis for the Second Amendment is not really about self-defense and it's not about hunting. It is about resistance to government tyranny. That's what the founders said, and that's what the right believes in this country.
Which tyranny are you fearing yourself?
I fear the possibility of a tyranny rising in this country in the next 50 to 100 years. Let me tell you something, Piers. The fact that my grandparents and great-grandparents in Europe didn't fear that is why they are now ashes in Europe. So this kind of leftist revisionist history, where there's never any fear of democracy going usurpacious or tyrannical, is just that. It is fictitious.
Just to clarify.
All right, so as he says, is that because his grandparents did not protect themselves against a tyrannical government, now they have become ashes. All right, and of course he's talking about the Holocaust back in the World War II when Hitler did the whole Holocaust. But if the people of Germany would have fought against that, more than likely they would have been able, or, you know, the Holocaust could have been prevented if they would have defended themselves and they would have fought against the tyrannical government. All right, so the first headline that I have for you is this. Lansing braces for another militia-fueled state capitol protest. This from Zero Hedge. And I have a video for that, but I want you to pay very close attention to what she says. All right, here it is.
Become the target of vicious, violent private Facebook groups that say you should be beaten and lynched. Some of those people plan to attend a rally at the state capitol this Thursday. And also this week, the Capitol Commission delayed a decision on banning firearms. Are you at all fearful for your personal safety?
Well, I would be not truthful if I said it didn't bother me. It certainly does. I'm fortunate that the Michigan State Police is an incredibly talented professional organization that oversees the security of myself and my family, and I'm grateful for that. But the fact of the matter is, Michigan Capitol is one of the few capitals in the country where people can come with bearing arms. And what we saw last week and what we anticipate seeing tomorrow is those arms being used to intimidate others, to being brandished in a way that is to strike fear into others. And that is not legal activity. And so this is a terribly concerning development in that we have legislators who are showing up to work wearing bulletproof vests. That is disenfranchising thousands of people in our state if their legislator doesn't feel safe enough to go to work and to do what their job is. No one should stand in our way of doing our jobs. And I respect people's right to dissent, but that does not extend to endangering other people's lives, and we take it very seriously.
All right, so the people in Michigan did not do anything wrong, right? It is legal in the United States of America for people to open carry their firearms. Now, there is some states who do not allow you to have your firearm in government buildings, but luckily in Michigan you can. All right, so they did not do anything illegal. If she was feeling threatened because she was seeing the guns there, it was just a reminder of who she's working for, and she's working for the people of the United States, the people for the people of Michigan. All right, so I want to, say something that she had said, which is this: no one should stand in our way of doing our job. All right, so what is she doing? She's standing in people's way of doing their job. All right, even though the coronavirus numbers are not that high, which I understand, right, that we don't have a treatment, we don't have a vaccine, We don't have a way to get rid of it. And it's very, very contagious. I'll give her that. However, she is taking the entire precaution of a virus into heights they should have never gone. If they had not turned it political, it wouldn't have been it. All right, so I want to make sure that everyone understands that I'm not calling for any type of violence, because that is not the right way to do it. All right, her seeing the guns and the legislation seeing the guns is a reminder to them who she's working for. She's working for the people of the United States, and they are all protected under the Constitution. We all are, right? So for the people of Michigan, in Virginia, and other places who feel that they have been trampled upon by their governors, you have a peaceful way to do it. And you have two ways. One is when election comes, or re-election comes, you will remember what they've done to you and you vote them out of office. The second way that you can do it peacefully is that you do the impeachment. All right, that you hire a lawyer, whoever it is that you need to hire, in order to impeach the governor, and you go ahead and move on those articles. All right, so that is the peaceful way to do it. Like I said, I am not calling for no type of violence or anything like that, but it is a reminder to everyone in the government who they're working for, the people of the United States, who will not sit around and let our rights be trampled upon, especially the Second Amendment and First Amendment and all the other amendments in the Constitution. All right, so I want to go ahead and move on. The next thing that I want to show you is something that Alan Dershowitz said. All right, and I have a video for that. It's pretty long, but it's very important for you to listen to everything that he says, because he goes into a lot of detail that is going to drop your mouth if you haven't heard it, and it's just going to make you extremely angry. Here it is.
A plainclothes officer informed me that the park was closed. He showed me no badge, even when I asked to see it. And he said that despite the fact that I was standing there talking to a 70-year-old woman calmly and having a polite conversation, no one was even arguing, they closed the park, they kicked us out. They told me that if I didn't leave, I could take it up with a judge, which I took to mean they would arrest me, throw me in a concrete box, and allow me to speak to a judge about the Constitution on Monday, since this was a Friday. Is Governor Andrew Cuomo allowed to shut down the Constitution because of allegations of a virus that certain medical professionals argue against?
Let's be very clear how we break down this issue. The city of New York, the state of New York, has the power to close a park based on their view that it would be helpful in defeating the pandemic. Absolutely no question about that. The Supreme Court has case after case after case saying that public health justifies closing down parks, closing down public areas. The next question is, does the governor have the right to do that? Governors generally are not authorized to make the law. They're authorized to enforce the law. So you'd have to look to see if there were legislative authority allowing the governor to close the park. If there is, then it would be legitimate. Let me put it very clearly. You have no constitutional right to endanger the public and spread a disease, even if you disagree. You have no right not to be vaccinated. You have no right not to wear a mask. You have no right to open up your business.
Wait, can I stop you? No right not to be vaccinated? Meaning if they decide you have to be vaccinated, we have to be vaccinated?
Absolutely. And if you refuse to be vaccinated, the state has the power to literally take you to a doctor's office and plunge a needle into your arm. If the vaccination
Where is that in the Constitution?
If the vaccination is designed to prevent the spreading disease. If the vaccination is only to prevent a disease that you will get, for example, if there's a disease that will kill you, you have the right to refuse that, but you have no right to refuse to be vaccinated against a contagious disease. Public health, the police power of the Constitution, gives the state the power to compel that. And there are cases in the United States Supreme Court. Case that pops into my head, I may have the name wrong, is Jacobson. I think probably I have it right. Check it out. You'll see that there are cases after cases after cases that the public health permits reasonable actions to prevent the spread of communicable diseases. Most of them grow out of tuberculosis cases in the early 20th century, but some are more recent than that. But there's still an issue of whether the governor has the authority to create laws, and that's a matter of state legislation. Yeah.
But you've opened up a whole new area here. So
Right.
the governor has the right, or sorry, the government
State.
has the right to force someone to be vaccinated.
Absolutely.
But how do we know what they're providing us from a medical standpoint is accurate? There are doctors who argue that Anthony Fauci is totally wrong in his assessment, and it certainly seems like week to week, month to month, they don't seem to know anything about this virus.
I agree with that. I mean, I think there's a lot. I wrote an article early on pointing out two fundamental errors right away. But that's what a democracy is about. And if the majority of the people agree and support that for public health measures, you have to be vaccinated, you have to be vaccinated. They should give you an alternative. The alternative is to live in your home, don't get vaccinated, but never, ever leave your home or live in a bubble. But if you want to interact with other people, you cannot become Typhoid Mary. The Constitution doesn't give you the right to spread your illness to other people. And you can disagree, you can be a dissenter, you can leave the country, you can go into a bubble. But what you can't do is say, I don't disagree, I don't agree with Fauci, therefore I'm going to take the law into my own hands and decide to spread the disease. That's not a constitutional right. Sorry.
But Professor Dershowitz, how can you support a law that's made on the determination by a doctor? If you went to the doctor today and he determined that we need to chop off your leg, wouldn't you get a second opinion before you went and did what that doctor said?
I wouldn't have him. I wouldn't even listen to that doctor. We're not talking about it based on a doctor. We're talking about it based on a legislature, based on the legislature's decision being upheld by the highest courts and by the Supreme Court. We're talking about democracy. Doctor doesn't make the decision. The decision is made by the government through democratic means. And if the decision is made by the government, if they told you you had to cut off your leg, that would be unconstitutional because your leg doesn't help them. Let's assume the doctor says to you, unless you cut off your leg, you'll die. You have a right to die. You don't have to cut off your leg. But if the doctor says, unless you cut off your leg is contagious and will spread your disease to many, many, many other people, that's a completely different issue. Constitution.
But if this legislation is based on the determinations made by doctors and they've determined something about, we're mixing the fields of medicine and law, and the proof of something in law seems vastly different than the proof of something in medicine. A lot of the people who are advising us as to the future of vaccinations in this country are the very same people who have been kicked out of major countries for serious failures and injuries resulting from vaccines that they felt were going to be beneficial. I'm very troubled by the legality of what you're suggesting because it seems like we're very close to a government mandate that we must all be vaccinated. Let me take you in another direction here.
I would like to see a government mandate. If a safe vaccine is developed for COVID-19, I hope it's mandated. And I will defend it and will argue that in the Supreme Court of the United States against your views.
And you would get it if they came out tomorrow and said there's a vaccine that's ready?
First one online, my children would get it, everybody would get it. If we felt it was safe, we'd make our own, obviously, make our own judgment. If we decided to become civil disobedience and violate the law, that would be a different thing, but the law would be completely valid.
So according to Alan Dershowitz, you have no constitutional right for you not to be vaccinated, for you not to wear a mask, and for you to open your business if you want to. That's according to him. All right, so who's Alan Dershowitz? It's very important that you know who he is because he was the lawyer for Trump during the impeachment. So if anyone has access to Trump, it's that man. And he's probably whispering things into the president, Donald Trump, which could be why he says that he's going to use the military in order to move the vaccines and, use it to vaccinate people. So what I want to touch on real quick is that he said, right, that you have no right, absolutely no right to say, or you have no right to deny the vaccine, especially if it's mandatory. He would love it to see mandatory. All right, but what did he say? If you don't like it, get out of the country or live in a bubble, or you will never, ever be able to get out of your house. Which is, of course, that sounds stupid, very stupid. But it just goes to show how these people are thinking. All right. Imagine if they're going to do this with a vaccine, how much more are they going to do this with the mark of the beast or something like that, right? Even though I don't believe that this could be the mark of the beast, but it could be like a dress rehearsal for the mark of the beast, because everything that the Bible talks about the mark of the beast is there. You cannot get out of your house, you cannot buy or sell, and everything will be forced upon you. It will be mandatory to have the mark of the beast, right? So Christians, this is right now the time when you are going to, I guess, get into your mind on how you're going to react when the day comes that they tell you that you have to take the mark. How you're acting right now is how you're going to act then. All right? And things are not really as bad as the Bible says it is. Remember, it says that things will be very, very bad. It's going to be so bad. There's never been that bad before, and it's never going to get that bad again. So things are going to get very, very bad. So how you're going to act right now when things are relatively okay, depending on where you live, of course, is how you're going to react then too. All right? So the next video I have for you is this. This video is from Martha Henry in Howard County, Florida. And listen to what she said. Here it is.
So tracing is something that would have to be under the guidance of the health department. It's sensitive public health information and the like. So they would coordinated under a public health initiative. I'm expecting a proposal from Dr. Thatchy. It may be in my office now, but sometime this week that would substantially increase not only the tracing, but more testing and case management and isolation for, when we have to go into some of these ALFs and move people out or go into family homes, like in some of these, when we're going into some of these homes and we have to separate an individual to isolate them, they need, we need to make sure that they get care, that they have food, that they have support to be isolated from their home or their family for that 14-day period. So they're expecting a major proposal to expand what is in place now that we have in terms of what she has, what the state has proffered, and they've given us a lot of resources, but we're still 2 million people, so we're going to step it up even more because of our concern about not backsliding.
All right, so if they cannot legally, just make you do whatever they want, because they try with guns, right? As they try to take our guns away, they try to take free speech away, they try to violate the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, all the amendments through all type of executive orders and everything. If they cannot make us do anything in those ways, where we can fight it, it seems that the only thing that we cannot fight is the health department, because that's what they're using, the health department. All right, as she said, that they're going to take people out, they're going to take them somewhere, and they're going to make sure they're accommodated. All right, but the simple fact that they're going to force their way into your home, to test you for the coronavirus, which is in Georgia, they were doing that. They were going door to door collecting people's blood to make sure that no one was infected, for tracing or whatever, or to see how bad the coronavirus has been in that area, which is extremely insane. But anyways, how can these people think that we're going to sit idly by, just not do anything, which is exactly what happened in New Jersey. All right, here's my next headline. New Jersey gym that defied shutdown orders closed by state health department. This from NBCPhiladelphia.com, and I have a video for that too. Here it is.
Keith, good afternoon. As you know, Governor Murphy has been pretty staunch and firm that it is not yet time for gyms to open, but the Attalus Gym, together with their attorneys, say they will do so anyway tomorrow. And obviously, this is about a whole lot more than them just getting back open for business and working out and making money. They say they're fighting for all non-essential business in the Garden State, for example, where one business can remain open next door. Their doors still forced to be closed. The Attalus Gym doors are locked. Owners got word today that officials came overnight to post these violations, an orange embargo sticker, and this 4-page state health department closure notice.
He ran out of legal precedence to shut us down, and that's why he had to bring in the health department. He literally admitted that on TV.
These guys, you know what? They're strong, they're muscle heads and all that. They're stronger inside than they are outside.
Attalus drew a line in the sand with New Jersey opening in defiance Monday and each day since, with a crowd of support that has included police issuing disorderly conduct citations, even an arrest of a member who refused to give up his identity. The gym and patrons have lawyered up, citing their move is constitutional and protected by the 14th Amendment and Bill of Rights.
So every attempt to shut us down is only going to highlight the absurdity in essential versus non-essential businesses.
Attalus has also taken, they say, 8 weeks to do their homework, clean, sanitize, and space out equipment and more.
We have an air scrubber that is cleaning the air with UV light that runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Today, Medic Air of New York installed a touch-free biometric sensor that takes users' temperatures from 3 feet away, mask or not. I tried it, wearing mine.
Please get close for taking temperature. Normal temperature.
We set it to the CDC standard of 100.4. So if you're above that, it will send an alarm out, it'll turn a red light on and let the person know that they're above their temperature.
The company donated it to Attalus. This is companies around the country are spending $2,500 to install it.
You could bring hospital patients in here and they would not get COVID because it is a clean environment.
All right, so people are not just going to sit by and let their businesses be destroyed and let their lives be controlled and our lives being wrecked with, right? We have to make sure that we stand up and do things that, that of course, do not violate the law, but that we don't let them just trample upon our rights, because they're going to make things worse. If they think coronavirus is bad, an economic collapse is going to be 100 times worse than that. All right, so it is important for you to stand up and not take it anymore. So, like I stated before, when re-election comes, remember these days and get those people out. In the Senate, governor, everyone that can be voted out. All right, if those other members cannot be voted in, then something has to get done. So the next headline that I have for you talks about Trump. Here it is. Trump says that he would mobilize military to distribute coronavirus vaccines when it's ready. This is from CBSNews.com. All right, so just going off the headline, which, of course, you can find those videos, and you can see that Trump himself said that he's going to use the military and other forces in order to vaccinate people. Then he also said that hundreds of thousands of, he said hundreds of thousands of troops, something like that. I'm going off memory. But still, it's important that you pay attention to those things. Because how are we going to react as a people? All right. It could be that a lot of people right now are saying, well, it's Trump, and I trust Trump. But I want to point something out very, very quickly. Trump wants this to be done by the end of the year, hopefully sooner, right? He said. But let's say that end of the year, he means November, December. But let's just say for whatever reason, all of this gets delayed by, let's say, by January 21st, which is, of course, after the election and the second president or the next president to be sworn in. Now, if Donald Trump loses, all right, if Donald Trump loses the election and you have Sleepy Uncle Joe there, all the people who would be okay with Trump putting the vaccine on you, are you going to be okay with Joe Biden putting the vaccine on you or whoever it is that's running? Because at this point, we don't really know. There's not being nomination for the Democrat ticket. So that is something to really, think about. What are you going to do if it's Sleepy Uncle Joe or someone else that is not Trump? Are you still going to be okay with using the military to vaccinate people? Because remember, he wants this done at least by the end of the year. But if it gets delayed and he does not get reelected, it's going to be someone else. So, of course, in anticipation of all of this, What are they doing? They are getting things in place. All right, here's my next headline and my last one. Veterans Affairs Police buy Riot Gear, citing COVID-19 pandemic. This from Zero Hedge. The federal government is ramping up new purchases of Riot Gear, citing the virus pandemic comes at a time when the economy has plunged into recession. And high unemployment has led to increased anxieties across the country. The Intercept says a recent order made by the Department of Veterans Affairs shows disposable handcuffs, gas masks, ballistic helmets, and riot gloves, along with law enforcement protective equipment, were bought for federal police assigned to guard VA facilities. The order was quickly fulfilled under a special authorization in response to the COVID-19 outbreak. President Donald Trump signed an executive order in 2017 allowing police forces to receive military weapons. More recently, President Trump signed an executive order to allow activation up to 1 million troops. As to why the VA police will need riot gear is beyond anyone's guess. However, the rapid militarization of police forces over the last decades show the federal government could be preparing for social unrest. All right, and that is very true, and it's something to really think about. All right, because if you're going to be in some type of confrontation with the U.S. government, the police have been militarized. It can have its good things about being militarized, as far as if we get an invading force, the police would be more equipped to be able to fend off against an invasion. But for the citizens, a police state that strong is going to be hard to defeat, even though there's a lot of people in the United States, more than this government employees. But the point is that you have to prepare, because this can turn ugly very quickly, very, very fast. You know, it can turn into a nightmare that we never dreamed of, especially in the United States. That's why it's important for us to uphold and protect the Constitution, everything that's in it. All right, all 27 amendments. And if the government, the governors, and the legislation, anyone who tries to trample upon our constitutional rights, you must remember that in the re-election, or do an impeachment, which I'm sure that's something that can be done. All right. So again, think about all these things. Prepare the best way you can to avoid something that could potentially happen. This is a real threat. We're seeing it today. All right. So again, my name is Jose Prado, and remember, always ready.
The Man-Made Survival Show.